Hi, my name is Moretti. I am the Rise Vermont School Wellness Specialist, and I'm here to show you an activity that we called our Sugar Sweetened Cereal activity. There are many activities like this out on the market regarding sodas or energy drinks, but there aren't as many activities like this that are specific to food or breakfast cereal that's marketed towards children and families. So we wanted to show you how to do this hands-on activity with your students, and so that you can do this in the classroom. There's a lot of added sugar in food that is geared towards children, sometimes at a rate that is surprising to children and families. So we use this activity to, instead of lecturing to children and families, we're providing them information so that they can make decisions on their own about what they want to put in their bodies. By the end of this activity, students should be able to explain how to calculate the amount of sugar that's found in a food, identify what kinds of breakfast foods are healthier and why, identify ways to add flavor to their breakfast without adding additional sugar, and identify ways to fuel their day with a balanced breakfast. They should also be able to describe the elements of a healthy meal. The materials that we use in this activity: any cereal box. We have quite a few. We've actually laminated the fronts and the nutrition panels of many different kinds of cereals. We recommend using an empty cereal box so that the kids aren't fighting over cereal. We've developed a how much sugar is in your cereal worksheet and also a calculation sheet to help you with the math in finding out how many spoonfuls of sugar are in your portion. We use a tub of just white sugar, cups to measure the sugar out into. We like to use the 9-ounce clear cups because you can see how much sugar is in it, but it's also of great visual impact. You'll need spoons. We use bowls for children to pour their cereal into, similar to the size of a bowl that they might have at home. A measuring cup, and if you don't want to use actual cereal, we use beads so that they can pour out the cereal and measure it, and it's similar to the size and shape and colors that you'll find in most commercial cereals. And the last thing you'll need or want access to is either Post-it notes and a marker or a whiteboard so that you can take notes during the presentation and refer back to them. Prior to starting, you may want to decide what your classroom can handle in terms of hands-on activities and being able to use the manipulatives. We've broken out the video into 3 different levels, one for younger students who it's really more about the conversation and a demonstration, and the students who would have a lot of trouble with hands-on activities. Another one for middle-aged students so that they can actually work with some of the activities respectfully, do some of the small calculations, and handle it in a way that won't destroy the classroom. And then the older students is our final one, the older students who could handle much more complicated calculations and using the materials independently. Before doing the activity, you probably won't want to distribute much of the materials until you've had the conversation to introduce the activity, because then they won't be paying attention to you. They'll be too focused on the brightly colored cereals in front of them. Prior to handing out the worksheet, and many classrooms have their paper person, so you could ask the teacher who the paper student is to hand out the papers to all the students. You want to open up the discussion. Have the students name foods that they believe are healthy choices. Doesn't even need to be breakfast foods. Just start with, what is a healthy choice of food? Have students describe foods that are typically eaten for breakfast. And you can talk about them being served at school or at home. That way it normalizes it. For students who eat at school and may not have breakfast foods at home, it's less about who has and who doesn't, but what do you eat? Remind kids not to yuck each other's yum. Not everybody eats cereal for breakfast. There are some non-traditional choices. Someone might eat pizza or leftover spaghetti or kimchi or fry up eggs. Not everybody eats the same thing, but we want to recognize that and celebrate the diversity within your classroom. Have students name why eating breakfast is an important thing, why adding fuel to your body and being prepared for the day is important, and why a good choice has you more prepared for school than a choice that maybe isn't as healthy for you. When you start the activity, you'll say, we're going to take a look at some of the popular breakfast cereals that are available out on the market, and we're going to look at what are some of the healthy options and discuss why one option might be healthier than another. We'll learn together how to find out how much added sugar there is in these cereals and see if they match the assumptions that you're making about how much sugar is in each of them. The American Heart Association has done research, and they recommend that people your age consume no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day. And so you want to ask them, what does that mean? What is an added sugar versus a natural sugar? And you'll begin those conversations. And while you're having those conversations, you can measure out for the students 6 teaspoons of sugar. You could have them count along with you. I often have trouble talking and counting at the same time, so that's helpful, keeping the kids focused on what you're doing. I think this is 6. I've been talking and not counting. Or, with the younger students who are learning to practice counting, you could even go over and they can, be all upset because you've gone over and have to start over again. So they'll be practicing counting, they'll be laughing, they won't feel like they're lectured to. So you'll hold up your 6 teaspoons of sugar. Talk about that. Does that look like a lot of sugar? Do you think you could stay within the 6 teaspoon range every day? And you'll want to leave it in a very obvious place so that as you are doing your activity, you always have those 6 teaspoons of sugar to refer to. So at this point, after you have everything all set up and all of your materials in front of you, you'll want to move into the activity. So at this point, we're going to break it out into the 3 separate videos that are focused on the age range or the way you want to do the activity with your students.